The 1965 movie Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines is a superb comedy for all the family. In 1910, the wonderfully pompous British newspaper tycoon Lord Rawnsley, played with relish by the fabulous Robert Morley, is persuaded to host a great international air race from London to Paris. He offers no less than £10,000 to the winner, a colossal sum at the time, in order to assure that the best pilots and aircraft from all over the world attend. Given that the Wright brothers performed their first manned, motorized, heavier-than-air flight on the 17th of December 1903, aeroplanes were still a very haphazard affair in 1910. And this is wherein lies one of the great joys of this movie. The aeroplanes. For these are replica models of true-to-life early aircraft. These rickety kites are quite sensational and make up one of the great wonders of this film. In some places, for example where the planes are over Paris, trick photography was used fairly obviously, which has not aged very well. But in most other scenes, from what I can tell at least, these old crates are really airborne, and it is a joy to behold. Yet the cast were not going to be outdone by the aircraft. Here we have a tour de force of comedy talent, hamming it up for all they're worth. The race being an international event, we get a glorious array of national stereotypes. Everyone in this film is a caricature. Foremost, the English are all terribly formal. Unless they're utter cads, of course. The clean-cut Richard Mays, played by James Fox, is the aspiring young British officer who wishes desperately to impress Lord Rawnsley by winning the race, in order then to get to marry the old man's daughter, the charming Patricia Rawnsley, played by Sarah Miles. France's leading pilot, Pierre Dubois, who is brought to life by Jean-Pierre is ever jocular and oozes charm from every pore, being in pursuit of the ladies almost as much as he is of the prize money. The Italian Count Ponticelli, who is played by Alberto Sordi, is a suitably overwrought character who is doing it all for Italia. The Japaneseman, played by Yujiro Ishihara, seems to have come to the contest from some sort of flying samurai school, and the American, played memorably by Stuart Whiteman, is to all intents and purposes a flying cowboy. But first and foremost, this film belongs to the comics. The movie is notable for the fact that it is the only major picture in which starred Tony Hancock, who plays Harry Popperwell, the equivalent of an aeronautical snake oil salesman, who is in attendance to sell his latest ludicrous craft to the unsuspecting airman. In the end, he takes part in the race himself, with rather unexpected results. One of the incontrovertible stars of the film is Terry Thomas, whose Sir Percy Ware Armitage is an absolute swine, who will stop at nothing to sabotage his opposition. Alongside him is his long-suffering chauffeur-cum-dog's body, Courtney, played by the wonderful Eric Sykes. And then there is Gert Froebe. World famous for his Auric Goldfinger in James Bond, this was actually more his acting territory, as he was in fact a formidable comedian. Here he plays the Prussian Colonel Manfred von Holstein, who is an amalgam of just about every German stereotype of which you can conceive. His favourite line is, "There is nothing a German officer cannot do." As though all this were not enough, who is the commander of the airfield's fire brigade, stationed atop a defunct old windmill? Well, no lesser than Benny Hill. The main musical theme of this extraordinary film is another treat. A strangely catchy number, which proves instantly recognisable and sets the tone beautifully for this joyous affair.
Those magnificent men in their flying machine, they go up to the up, they go down to the down.
The attention to detail throughout is wonderful. How many films do you know of in which even the end credits sport caricatures of the main protagonists? The greatest line of the film no doubt belongs to Lord Rawnsley, who speaks for every Briton in his appreciation of international events.
The trouble with these international affairs is that they attract foreigners.
As a little curio for the eagle-eyed, I'd challenge you to spot John Le Mesurier from the hit series Dad's Army, who appears on screen ever so briefly as an artist painting a nude lady somewhere along the French coastline. The film has the planes it has the cast, and it really delivers. The madcap antics by the pilots and their teams in preparation of the race are highly amusing. One of the highlights is no doubt the duel between the Frenchman and the German colonel on a point of honour, using hot air balloons and blunderbusses. But so too Patricia Rawnsley's flirting with the handsome American makes for quite a bit of entertainment, especially once the young British officer begins to realise that he doesn't quite like the idea of Miss Rawnsley making eyes at another man. The high point of this escapade no doubt being when Orville Newton, that being the American you understand, takes the young lady on a flight, only for his plane to suffer a broken wing strut in mid-air, and his having to climb out onto the wing in order to bind it back together again with his belt, with somewhat embarrassing consequences. The race itself is enthralling stuff, containing the odd emergency landing and improvised repair here and there. Naturally, Sir Percy Ware Armitage uses every dirty trick in the book to seek to outdo his competitors. Watching Terry Thomas be as fiendish as can be is a true delight. Meanwhile, Gert Fröbe's Colonel von Holstein finds himself having to fly the German aircraft, as his pilot has been nobbled with laxative by Sir Percy. The only problem being that he hitherto has never flown a plane, and must thus rely on the flight manual on how to control his aircraft. So please, people, give this one a try if you want to watch something bawdy, silly, and thoroughly enjoyable, with first-class comic performances and a joyous portrayal of those devil-may-care, magnificent men in their flying machines. That's all for now from the projection booth atop the Cyber Pass. Thank you very much, and goodbye.